Hi everyone, so we will see one more example this time, and this time we will find out the sum of numbers from 1 to n. So basically you will be given n, which is going to be a variable. So it is not, n can be any number, right? So you do not have to input, so you have to input n and you have to find the sum of numbers from 1 to n, right? For example, if I give you n equals to 5, then you know the sum of numbers from 1 to 5 is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, right? So this sum is nothing but 15, right? So what you need to do, you need to add these many numbers, right? So there can be two approaches, right? So one is you go to every number and you add it to your running sum, right? So you say you start with sum of 0, you add 1, it becomes 1, you add 2, this becomes 3, and so on, right? So finally it becomes 15. So we are going to design a flowchart for this kind of a approach. Another is formula based approach that you can use anyway, but not for this example we are not going to use, right? So the sum for first n term is given by n into n plus 1 by 2, which is also 5 into 6 by 2, which is 15, right? We are not going to use the formula, we are going to use this so that you will learn how to iterate over multiple numbers. Okay, so this concept is also called a concept of a loop, right? Let's see how we can implement a loop inside a flowchart, right? Okay. So the very first thing is you will have a start button. You say okay, let's start, and then you can say okay, read the first number, or read the only number in this case, which is n. And once you know the n, you need to generate numbers, right? So you need to generate numbers in the range 1 2 3 4 up to n, right? So what you can do, you can say okay, I take a number, I take a variable I. Okay, so this I is nothing but it's a bucket which stores the value 1, right? And let's create one more bucket which is the sum, which is equal to 0. So that is the initial sum, right? And let us assume there are two such variables that hold this, right? So you have a bucket I which holds 1, you have a bucket sum which holds 0. Okay, and in terms of programming language, these are also called variables, right? We will talk about variables in bit more detail later on, but as of now we have two buckets, right? So since you are creating some data inside the memory of a computer, we are using a processing box because you are doing some kind of processing here. This is not given by the user, this is a part of your logic, right? So you need to add these numbers to your sum, right? But you need to add all i's to your sum first, right? So you can check, is I greater than n, right? If this becomes the case, then you will stop. Okay, if this is no, if this is not the case, you will say okay, I can say I will add I to my sum. So sum equals to sum plus I. So I update my sum by adding I to my current sum. So if you have sum as 0, you add 1, your sum becomes 1. Next time you have 1, you will add 2, your sum becomes 3. So what you need to do, you will say okay, also update I. So I goes as I plus 1. Okay, the value of I was 1, and this time the value of I is now 2, and the value of sum is now 3. Next time you're going to say I is 3 and sum is also 3, so 3 plus 3 becomes 6. Next time it becomes 6 plus 4, which is 10, and it becomes 10 plus 5, it is 50. So you can see the value of sum and I is going to change continuously unless I is greater than n. Once I becomes greater than n, you need to print out the final sum. Okay, you will print the final sum here and you will stop, or you will end here. Okay, so this becomes a flow chart, right? So again, so this is the important concept that you need to learn here, right? So this is how we can iterate over a range of numbers, right? Iterate over a list of numbers, and this list of numbers is not given to us, but we have generated these numbers. So I is a variable that holds a particular number, and every time we add that I to a particular sum, we update our I, right? So whenever you're going to implement a loop inside a flowchart or in a programming language, you will have three things. First is your initial condition, right? How do you initialize the value of I? Then you have a stopping criteria. Okay, if you're going to do some work, so till what time you're going to do that work. So the stopping criteria is when I becomes greater than n, we have to stop. Then this is what you need to do. This is your particular work, and the final step is update the value of I. Okay, update that variable that defines your stopping criteria. And this, since this is like a circle, it goes on repeating itself unless we are done. This is called a loop. This is a loop, right? This is how you implement a loop inside a flowchart, right? So that's it for this video, guys. See you next time.